talking today about squatters versus landlords. If, like me, you've been watching a bunch of the news stories that keep coming out that are showing how landlords are being taken advantage of, you're probably pretty frustrated when you watch those videos. I know that I am. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about some very, very clever, unique strategies that I would encourage you to employ that will help you to fight back and push back against squatters. Now, remember, I can't give legal advice. And even though I'm a police officer and have a little more intimate knowledge of the inner workings of this problem, all of the opinions and the views expressed here are not legal advice. I'm not telling you should do it. What I'm saying is what I would do to avoid having a squatter take advantage of me and saying, you can't evict me. This is a civil issue. You got to take me to court 6 months from now, and I'm going to get all this free rent in the meantime. Let's set the stage a little bit. Probably like me, you've seen that video of the individual who I believe was from Argentina or Venezuela, and he was going viral on TikTok for making a video saying, hey, we can go to the US, we can invade a house, and so long as we go into that house, we now have squatters' rights and they can't kick us out. And it means millions of views for this guy encouraging other people to come into the country and then enter houses and then stay in those houses, break in, enter, and squat. You probably saw the video of that landlord in New York City. Lady, she looked like she was probably in her 60s. Her mother had passed away. Her mother's house was now vacant. She was selling the house. The lady who obviously her mom passed away, she was going to sell her mom's house. Well, she goes out to the house one day and she realizes, uh-oh, the locks are different. My key is not working. So she ends up trying to swap the locks out. She discovers there's some people in the property. She calls the police. The police show up. They get into a shouting match back and forth with the squatters, and they end up arresting the lady because she'd illegally changed the locks. Unbelievable, right? I just can't even believe it. Real quick, guys, because I'm streaming from my phone, let me go ahead and pull this up on YouTube so I can track with the comments here because I do want to see what people are saying. Unfortunately, I was having some technical issues. I don't know why, what was going on, but I'm going to stream this thing from the computer and from my phone. So you're probably seeing all these issues with squatters. Now, obviously, different states are going to have different problems, different solutions. Squatters don't have as many rights in red states, which is, again, another reason why I always recommend take a second look at some of your neighboring states that are a little bit more business friendly and landlord fair, because I don't want you guys to get taken advantage of. You should be concerned about getting taken advantage of. So why don't we crack into what I think are some of the best strategies that you could use in order to avoid being taken advantage of by squatters. So one of the things that we're seeing when they come in and the police get called is the police come out and we tell people this is a civil issue. So you need to go through the court system. It's not trespassing. It's a civil issue. It was a vacant house. Sometimes these tenants are actually pretty smart. These tenants, excuse me, not tenants. These fake tenants, these squatters, these people who have broken in illegally and are absolutely trespassing. And what in the world is going on with our country? I mean, property rights are one of the foundational pillars that the United States was built on. So it just baffles me that this is even a conversation. However, they'll come in, these fake tenants, these squatters will come in, and they'll have a fake lease. They drafted up a fake lease because it's really easy for anybody to just Google the property address. Oh, here's the owner of the property, or here's the LLC that owns the property when you look on your county tax records. And then they'll pull up a lease document online, write their name and information on, boom. And then they'll write the owner or the LLC that owns the property. Oh, Mr. Officer, I got a fake lease right here. Very, very clever. So here's what I would recommend that you do. Let's say you're buying a property or one of your properties is coming vacant. You know it's going to be vacant and you're worried that in the 2 months that it takes to get it repaired and rented out, or before you go to sell it, who knows, it might take 3, 4, 5 months to sell depending on what the market's doing and depending on how delusional you are with your pricing. Love you guys. You want to avoid having these squatters come in. So what I would recommend is you pick somebody in the market that lives there that you're friends with. Could be a real estate agent, could be, if it's in your market, could be your best friend, could be a coworker. I want you to sign a lease with that person. And you can put the rent down as whatever. They don't have to pay it. You're not going to evict them. So you're going to go and sign a lease. So if I was doing this, what I would say is, I have property at 123 Main Street that I know is going to come vacant. I'm worried about squatters. I'm going to call my best friend, Joel. And I'm going to say, buddy, I want to sign a lease with you on this property. And he's going to say, well, why? And I'm saying, because I'm trying to protect myself against squatters. I want to sign a lease with you for $1,000 a month. Don't worry, I'm not going to collect on it. I just want the document in hand. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I get it notarized. I want the lease notarized and dated. That way, and you have it start as soon as the property goes vacant or as soon as the repairs start. That way, there's no discrepancy in the timeline, and no squatter is going to be able to bring their fake lease and say, my fake lease trumps your notarized lease, because we know their crap ain't notarized. So you're going to get a lease notarized between you and a friend. That's step one. The next thing that you should do is you should put them on a utility. Odds are you're still paying electrical. Odds are you're still paying water. Now, again, this is why it needs to be a close friend. The reason that I would recommend this is because if it's somebody who's like not a close friend or something like that, they're going to be real concerned that maybe you could, hey, he's going to start charging me. I don't want utilities in my name. It needs to be somebody who trusts you. But I would put a utility in their name. Water bill, electric bill, something. Now we've got two documents. And this is another thing that squatters take advantage of. If they can go take a fake lease, take that fake lease to the power company, have the power company send them a bill, and then they can go to the postal service. They can change their address. If all of this stuff happens, they've been at a place for more than 30 days, they can show the police, hey, I've got a lease, I've got a utility bill, I've got mail, all these different things. They have a much better case for it being a civil issue, and they're a makeshift, a common law tenant. Big pain in the neck there. So I want you to do a lease, notarized. I want you to do a utility bill. That way, the person that's your friend can say, I clearly am an established resident of this property. And if I wasn't there when these people tried to break in, it's because I was on vacation. I was out of town. I was staying somewhere else because we're doing some repairs on the property. It doesn't mean I don't live here. Here's my lease. The next thing that I want you to do is you need to take it upon yourself to put up cameras. Or a property manager needs to be checking on this thing very, very often. I know my property manager in Indiana on vacant units, he goes by and does monthly checks. If he's more concerned that it's got a potential for theft or squatting, he's going to probably do weekly checks. So if you're in an area where this is a major issue, absolutely get cameras. You definitely want to get cameras. A Ring doorbell, even just throwing a baby monitor in there. A lot of these baby monitors now stream to your phone. And you might say, well, I don't have internet. Well, if you got to sign somebody up for a utility, sign them up on the internet bill. And you might say, well, I don't want to waste money and pay for internet if I'm just going to disconnect it. Or, okay, well, here's the thing. Is that going to be cheaper than going through a 6, 7, 8 month long eviction and additional repairs? Yes. It's going to cost you a little bit of money to get it notarized. Is it going to be a little bit of a hassle and a pain to sign somebody up for a lease and for a utility? Yes. Is it going to be a pain in the neck to throw some baby monitors in there, or a Ring doorbell, or a couple little nanny spy cams hidden in a corner or something? Yeah, sure. But will it protect you in the long run? Absolutely. That's what I would do. So I want to be checking on this, because if we've discovered somebody has moved in, time is of the essence. We've got to act quickly. And you want to act quickly. That's when, let's say, oh, Mr. Squatter arrived last night. They bust in. Oh, shoot. Tom McKay, Flip Anything USA's jumped on. Oh, man, nice to see you, man. Sorry, I'm streaming from my phone, so I'm kind of unfortunately struggling to see all of the comments coming through. I saw you pop up on my phone. He says, I have Ring floodlights on nearly every building. Very smart. Tom's a great dude, guys. If you're not following Tom, you should. He's a fantastic wholesaler guy, wholesaler guru. Got a great book. Wake Up and Smell the Real Estate, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. Absolutely follow him. He's a great channel, great listen. But back to the topic at hand. You want to take care of the problem as quickly as possible. So it's on you and on your property manager to make sure that you're monitoring the property so that if people do break in, you can deal with it quickly. Now, when it comes to calling the police, okay, you're going to call the cops. Squatters are going to be doing their thing, lying, cheating, stealing, whatever. You're going to call the police officers, and you're not going to say, well, first of all, you're not calling. You're calling your buddy up. Your buddy's the one who's going to call the police. Joel, my buddy, I'm going to say, Joel, I need you to call the police and say that people are trespassing in your house. He's going to call the police and say, look, man, I was out of town. I was on vacation. I don't know who these people are. They broke into my house. We're doing some remodeling in there. That's not why there's not a lot of stuff in there. Oh, another quick tip. I would maybe throw a couple of pictures. Throw a couple of pictures on the wall of the family member that's going in there. Investor, not wholesaler, please. My bad. Tom is the man. He is absolutely an investor. He has some great wholesaling tips in his book, though, because he's the man. If it was me, I would tell Joel, I'd be like, let's put a couple random pictures in here, maybe like a family picture, something, or a picture of you on vacation. I would maybe even throw a sleeping bag, a couple of toiletries in there, because odds are the squatters are going to move in. They're probably not going to get rid of that stuff. They're not going to sign up for trash. They typically just trash the place. So if you can throw even just a few personal effects in there, and then the police show up and you have a notarized lease, a utility, Joel's the one calling, these people broke into my house, versus landlord calling, these people broke into my vacant rental. Now we can transition back away from a civil case, which is where all of the landlords are struggling, because as a police officer, we only investigate violations of criminal code, criminal law. We don't deal with civil case. You don't need a cop to mitigate your divorce, right? That's a civil case. Small claims court. We have people call all the time down at the police station. Yeah, my dentist stole from me. I'm like, I believe you. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. I believe you. I'm very sorry. There's nothing I can do about this. This is a civil court. This is a small claims court. There's no criminal law that was violated by your guys' contract not being upheld. This is something you have to take to civil court, which is the exact same thing with the tenancy laws. That's why the police show up. And even though these people aren't legitimate tenants, they have broken in. They're exploiting the loopholes in these very, very, very tenant squatter friendly states, and they're exploiting those loopholes to the point where we as the cops are cuffed up and our hands are tied, and there's just nothing that we can do about it. If I was to arrest somebody, now I'm violating the law, I'm violating their civil liberties and their rights, and I'm the one who's going to be written up and potentially fired for it. So I understand your frustration. Please try to understand the police officer's frustration. However, if your buddy lives there and he can say to the cops, here's my notarized copy of my lease. Here's my utility bill I've been paying every month. I've got some personal effects in there. We're remodeling the property, so I'm not in there for a couple of days. They're trespassing in my house. Now we get to transition away from civil issue back to criminal issue. These people are trespassing, and as frustrating as it is, and it's a very hard thing to prove, but it is a little bit easier now, especially if you can see a notarized lease with the signature from the actual property owner. It's a little bit easier to say, hey, we might even have a forgery case here if they have their own lease. Forgery case on top of criminal trespassing. So when it comes to protecting yourself, let's just highlight the top topics again real quick, and then I'll get to some of these questions that are in here. What I would suggest is signing and notarizing a lease with a friend, putting them on a utility, setting up a bunch of cameras and floodlights to make sure that the area is being monitored. Work with your property manager or by yourself to make sure that you're monitoring the property very consistently. We don't want people to move in there, and we certainly don't want them to be there for any longer than 30 days. We don't want them to set up mail, any of that kind of stuff. Even if you went to the extent of uninstalling a mailbox, is it cheaper than going through is it cheaper to do that than it is to go through a prolonged eviction? Yeah, it is. So maybe something else you would consider. Then when the police come, your friend who's on the lease is the one that's going to call the police and say they're trespassing. You don't. I mean, you could still go out there and hang out with them if you want. You could go out there and be the owner. Now we've got two people, leasee, leaseor, both talking to the police and saying these people are trespassing. They've committed fraud. They're forging a document. They're not welcome here. I have my cameras in here. We can watch them. You can show the police officers the video, watch them breaking in. There's a whole bunch of different things like that you could do. So this is what I would do from A to Z on how to avoid squatters. And that should make it much easier for the police to actually take action, because at the end of the day, when you go through the eviction, after the civil case is settled, the judge says they got to be out. If they don't leave on their own, the police are going to go back, and at that point, they're going to remove them. So the police have the authority to remove people if they're not supposed to be there. We just have to prove conclusively they're not supposed to be there. And it's easier to do that if you've taken all these steps that I've recommended. Now, final point of advice that I would say on all this. I'm sure any number of different attorneys and lawyers could listen to this video, start poking holes, start being upset. Well, this, that, or the other, I get it. That's what they get paid to do. Argue with each other for $250 to $300 an hour. But I'm giving you the perspective from an officer of what I would want to see to take action. Because we all know that if the police officers are acting in good faith and good judgment and I've got these documents, this document, this person saying this person saying this, and I've got squatters on camera breaking it with a fake lease. Trespassing in a home that's presently occupied, even if he wasn't staying there that day, because people are allowed to go away from the weekend. Think about it. If you took a trip away from your house for the weekend and you came home and squatters were in your house and you called the cops, you think they're going to say that's a civil issue? No, these people broke into my house. They're still in my house. You know, if it's a 2-3 day thing, they're going to get them out of there. If you go through all these steps and processes, you're just empowering the officers to have enough documentation to take action. But if you don't have that day one from the first initial call, if you try to retroactively do it, if you try to, oh, I signed a lease with my buddy, now you come back to the cop. Well, we're not dumb. We know there's an ongoing problem here. We know that this lease isn't legitimate. And that's why I recommend you get it dated and notarized. They can't argue with that. The utilities backdated to what, signed up for whenever the property is going to go vacant. They can't argue with the utility history. It just makes it easier for the police officer to take action and then hopefully do what we all want to see, which is put the squatters in handcuffs for trespassing and for breaking and entering and for forgery and for any number of different things. That's my advice. Now, why don't we get to some of these questions? Let me see if I can scroll back up here. Again, guys, I am sorry. I'm trying to do this from my phone because I was having problems with my software earlier. So, Don and Bev Perkins, thank you for being here. Afro Capitalist, nice to see you. Rob, my good friend. All-Nighter Hider, my man, he has been working at our new property, Fiveplex in Indiana. He's been working tirelessly at that, and he's getting pretty close. Landlord Odyssey, Dion, thank you for being here. Freedom Works, pleased to meet you. Brett Bisber, he says, did you say hit the mic? That's not nice. Yeah, guys, don't hit me. Come on now. Wow. Brett Bisber, since you failed the fire exam. I don't know if you've been talking to Shiro a little too much, but I never took any firefighter exam. I had no desire to stand on the corner of a street with my boot and beg for cash from the cars that stop there. That's not something that I'm interested in doing. I also don't have a desire to not actually work and get paid. Like, these guys are barbecuing and playing video games, oiling each other up for tanning midday at the firehouse. Meanwhile, we're out there doing the real work. That's why we're called first responders and they're called second responders. All right, Wayne Wong, how's it going? Jason, how you doing, man? Old Guy REI, Frank, nice to see you guys. Subscribe to Old Guy REI. He's a good dude. That's Frank Contreras. Okay, Andrew Wilkins, I saw you dropping a bunch of comments. Let's read through some of these. So, he says, the problem comes from the English common law deed system, which allows people to take from the commons. This does allow for homesteading, but comes with a squatter problem. Other countries use the Torrens title system with a government registry, which allows the police to quickly verify ownership of the property. Well, yes, I mean, much of our law is evolved from English common law. And so I understand what he's saying here. Yes, because we have the ability to do homesteading, to live out in open prairie areas that aren't owned, it does allow people to make the case that because a property is unoccupied, it's now slipped into the common use of the public, and then they're making a case. And even in some extreme cases, in some very extreme cases, if they've managed to get into a property that was vacant and live there long enough, and they can prove they've established residency there long enough, they might even be able to seize that property for themselves. So, for instance, a lot of foreign investors, where currency is not as stable in their country or government could seize their assets, they will buy houses here in the United States as an investment. They have no intention of renting it out. They just buy an empty house just because it's a more secure place for the money to be than in their bank accounts in their current country of residence. And people will break into these houses and they'll never even be picked up on at all. The person has no idea what's going on. And this person could live there for 12 months, 16 months, and then make a ploy or make a case for, hey, man, the house is just mine. And I might have to go find that video and react to it. I remember watching a clip of some guy, and all the neighbors were mad. They were like, we paid $800,000 for our house, and this guy got it free because he broke in. There's no justice there. Well, I mean, again, because we've inherited common law from the English system. Yeah, that stuff is technically on the up and up in the right state with the right lawyers, if you're willing to go that direction. Seems a little shady to me, but, that's people. All right, Syrian Shile, buy in Florida to prevent this. Yeah, Ron DeSantis just signed a bill axing the squatters. Then we get Tom's comments down here. Thanks again for being here, Tom, if you're still here. Sean Wheeler says, any suggestions on side hustles you have seen or experienced? It's a good question. So, part of my real estate investing journey was working copious amounts of side hustles, extra jobs, overtime, so that I could save enough money to get started investing. Now, when I hear people talk about side hustles, typically what goes through my mind is they want some sort of unique job that's not that hard to do. Maybe I can do from my laptop to make some extra money on the side. I think that gets advertised on YouTube frequently as very simple to do. Drop shipping or copywriting and all these other systems that you see. Shoot, you might have seen an ad for one of those things at the beginning of this video or the midpoint of this video. A lot of these people online, these gurus, these social media experts, will claim that they can teach you. If you're not making $10,000 a month from home on your laptop with only 3 hours of work, then what's wrong with you? Well, I'm not a lying, cheating snake. Do some people make these types of things work? These online Shopify stores, these Etsy stores? Yeah, sure, they do. Is it a pretty low percentage versus the amount of people who try? Yeah. Same thing with wholesaling. Dude, wholesaling real estate's great. It is. But most of these wholesalers, the ones that are really good and doing it consistently, are spending a ton of money in advertising to send out mailers and put up signs and billboards and hire robocallers and all this type of stuff. So what's a good side hustle? Dude, what's wrong with getting a second job? That's what I did. So between the ages of 18 and 26, when I was in construction and when I very first became a police officer, I had 2 or even 3 jobs. I refereed soccer while also working in construction. I became a police officer. I took extra off-duty overtime shift as like private security or traffic control for construction sites. As a police officer, I worked tons of overtime. As a construction worker, not only did I do my regular 9 to 5 construction job where I manufactured and fabricated the granite countertops and installed the tile and the granite, but in the after hours, I picked up sales calls and went out and met with people to try to sell the product. So I worked an extra job or extra hours there. So when it came to me saving up all of the money to be able to get my first house hack, I did that by working copious amounts of overtime. I mean, I was pulling 70, 80-hour weeks, and just every single day of the week I was working, and the one day a week I got to see my son, I would spend with him, and then I'd go back to work and work for 6 days a week, 15 hours a day. The dumbest thing I ever did was try to work 33 hours straight. Not very smart. I did it. Not very smart. I've only done that one other time, and that was by necessity because it was a SWAT call, and I'd worked a 10-hour shift, and we had a crazy barricaded subject call come out, and we ended up working like 20 hours there, and I did 30 hours in a row, and I was straight up delirious. Like, it was bad. It was bad. Highly do not recommend that. But you should work more. I've got a couple videos titled like the 80-hour work week, and usually I get a lot of hate in the comments because people are like, I don't want to give more of my time to an evil, greedy corporate or corporation that doesn't pay me what I'm worth. Well, if that's what you truly think and believe, then the best way to get away from that evil, greedy corporation is to work 80 hours a week for 10 years so that you can then retire after those 10 years. Or you can work 40 hours a week for 40 years. Which one do you want to do? I chose sacrifice now, buy the first rental property, house hack, get all that money back, and then now I'm up to 25 units, and on Monday I will close on another duplex, which will make it 27 units in just a short 6 years. Remember, my goal for 2024 was 15 units this year. With this duplex, I will be at 11. And for reference, I bought 15 units my first 5.5 years. So that is the economy of scale, or the exponential growth curve occurring to your boy right now. Let me get through some more of these questions. All Nighter Hider says, another tip is to file your own HOA on the property and include an HOA fee in the legally binding document. HOA liens are nasty creatures. Haven't heard of that strategy before. Very interesting. Guys, hey, real quick, for those of you out there who are watching, at least let me say real quick, thank you for being here. I see that we got 31 viewers, 21 likes. Really appreciate that, guys. Anytime you tell the algorithm you like this, it definitely helps me out. I try my best to provide good content for you guys, so I really appreciate you guys being here. Okay, Andrew Wilkins says again, I should mention that the title system only stops adverse possession, taking the property. It doesn't prevent squatters from claiming they are tenants. Exactly, yeah. And so what we want to do is prove beyond a reasonable doubt that these squatters are not tenants. Remember, the way that police officers have to operate, this will be a little quick lesson in how police officers think. So if a police officer wants to conduct what is called a Terry stop, it comes from the law Terry versus Ohio. And what you need for that, the courts determined you need reasonable suspicion. And so what reasonable suspicion are specific articulable facts that would cause a reasonable layperson, just a regular guy or girl, to think that there's a possibility that a crime is being committed or is about to be committed or has been committed. And so I need reasonable suspicion to begin a Terry stop, or in other words, to detain somebody. Once I've detained them, hey, you're not free to go. I'm going to continue to conduct my investigation. Now, I'm at, my reasonable suspicion, but I can't make an arrest until I get what's called probable cause. Now, how do I get from reasonable suspicion to probable cause? Well, that happens during the investigation. I've detained this person. Maybe I'm just interviewing them. Maybe I'm conducting additional evidence as to the nature of the crime. Like, okay, I'm now talking with a landlord who's providing me video evidence of you, the person that I see here, and the person in this video breaking into this property. Okay, well, there's some pretty good PC, probable cause, that you have committed a crime. Or I'm seeing a document that you have put together that shows that you have a lease, but now I'm seeing another document that's notarized and somebody who's claiming they're the actual tenant, and I'm looking at video footage of you breaking in. Okay, I'm developing enough probable cause that now I feel comfortable placing somebody under arrest. And so what probable cause is that it's just more likely than not that a crime has occurred. So reasonable suspicion, average layperson believes that a crime may be committed. Probable cause is more likely than not. Well, to put this into a numerical value so that you can conceptualize the concept a little bit better, if I want to say something is more likely than not, well, then that's a 51% chance versus a 49% chance. So if there's even a 51% chance that a crime has been committed or is about to be committed or they're in the process of committing it, if there's even a 51% chance, then I have enough probable cause to make an arrest. And then for reasonable suspicion, typically we kind of throw the number out there, like even if you're like 25% sure, you think something's going on. This is why, you'll see an officer, see somebody like darting around the back of a house in the middle of the night, and maybe it's the homeowner or maybe it's not. And so you might say, hey man, what's going on? And then they come out like, oh, hey, how's it going? I live here. And then you see him take off and keep running. Well, a reasonable layperson might say somebody peeking in the windows of garage sheds and running from yard to yard in the backyard, that's not really normal of somebody living in the neighborhood. That might be a little more indicative of somebody prowling based on my training and experience as a police officer. And so I have enough reasonable suspicion to stop and detain this person and interview them. And it turns out it was just dude, I don't know, walking around in his backyard for whatever reason, and he's supposed to check on his neighbor's house too. Oh, okay, no harm, no foul, see you later. Or it's, Joe Dirtbag who's here ready to break some laws. So you develop the probable cause to make the arrest. Now, you're not considered guilty in a court of law until you get to the point of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And again, that's reasonable doubt. So is it possible that aliens came down and murdered somebody and framed you for it? Well, yeah, that's possible, but the reasonable doubt. And so those are the three different categories. And so what we're really trying to do with this whole process is give the police officers enough reasonable suspicion to detain and interview, to develop some probable cause to make an arrest, to take these people to jail for committing a crime. That is the mindset that you need to have when it comes to facilitating, helping a police officer get this person out of your property quicker. Okay, so hopefully that lesson wasn't too boring. Let's see here. All Night Harder says legal definition of attorney. I think what he meant to say, a turn is the negotiation of the transfer of property. How true. With such an easy commute, I've been putting in at least 10-hour days here in Gary. Dude, he's been working hard, man. Thank you. Conversations with Clint, another one rental at a time subscriber, follower, family member channel that you guys should check out. Talks about investing in real estate in Las Vegas. He's got a bunch of rental properties down there. So if you're in the Las Vegas area, absolutely follow his channel. He says squatters, big problem in Vegas. I foiled squatters a couple of times in one of my rental neighborhoods. Yeah, and time is of the essence. Act on that stuff quickly. Let's see here. All Nighter says common law also covers property rights which are violated by squatters. Yes. And then he says that he's making a name for himself in the neighborhood. Dude, I'm sure he's out there just meeting all the good people out there. There's a lot of friendly people in Gary. Much to most people's beliefs about the neighborhood, it's actually a pretty friendly, pretty welcoming place. So let's see here. Okay, Rob says Dion wins Best Side Hustle Award for selling World of Warcraft resources on the side. Yeah, so that is funny. So for those of you who don't know, I played World of Warcraft, a video game, as a kid. Dion was a grown-up, but he played it. And it was funny. For a while, one of the most famous things about World of Warcraft that really put it on the map was they would compare the currency inside of the game of World of Warcraft to the currency of Venezuela while inflation was occurring. And the currency inside of World of Warcraft was actually more stable because people are playing this game worldwide. And to get the in-game currency, you could spend out-of-game currency to get it. And so it was funny when Venezuela started experiencing extreme levels of inflation, a lot of the Venezuelans were trying to figure out what they could do with their money. And one of the only things that they could do was to actually play World of Warcraft and buy in-game currency, knowing that they could then sell that in-game currency for out-of-game currency in another dollar or another country's currency. So I remember back when that push happened, there was a bunch of articles about it. Venezuelans flocking to World of Warcraft so that they could convert their money into something else later down the line. So very, very funny, unique story. This is before Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. This is like 2007, 8, something like that. So a little tidbit of information none of you guys cared about, but there you go. All righty. Afrocapitalist says, love those 80-hour work week videos. I think that might have been like one of the first ones that he found me on. And again, I highly recommend outwork everybody, dude. This is one of the things I agree with Dave Ramsey on. If you want to live like no one else, then you have to first live like nobody else. If you want to be retired early, you want to have a bunch of real estate and rental properties, you have to spend a lot of time working for it. I don't talk that much about my police career, police stuff, because they get upset when I don't know why, but they do. I have a lot of videos of me waiting to be uploaded that when I retire, I will upload. And it's just 60 videos of me driving back, set the phone up, and I'm driving and I'm just talking while I'm driving. And I'm like, yep, I just pulled another 20-hour shift and this crazy story happened. And hopefully you guys like this. And I don't know when I'll get to post these things, but it'll happen one day. And I got a ton of those videos backlogged. So when I do retire and I can start releasing them, you'll be like, wow, he really did mean it when he said he worked 60, 70 hours a week and he worked these crazy hours, because I've got the video evidence of me being like, yeah, it sucked today, man. I'm real tired. I'm trying not to fall asleep. I'm probably going to have to go find some hidden road and take a quick nap, because I'm not going to make it all the way back across the state from the SWAT call without passing out. And I don't just want to pull over on the side of the road because cops get ambushed, or they pull over on the side of the road and a DUI driver rear ends them from behind and kills them, which happened to one of my coworkers within the last couple of weeks, unfortunately. So, yeah. All right, let's get through the last of these questions. We'll wrap this thing up because we just hit the half an hour mark. So if you have any other questions, throw them down there now. And I did see, hold on. BuzzTune, Mikey, thank you for that super chat. I thought there was one more. Brett Bisbirth, thank you for that super chat, even though you were insulting me while you were saying it. I know you were just kidding. All right, let's see here. So Julie Anderson says, police found a stolen Escalade at my apartment yesterday. They impounded it, stolen from Burlington, dumped in Everett. Yes, that's a great question. If you ever have a vehicle that is abandoned at one of your properties, before you pay somebody to tow it, before you pay the tow truck company to come out there, call the police officers, give them the license plate, give them the VIN number. And remember, license plates can be swapped out. VIN numbers are much harder to eradicate, scratch off. And if you see a scratched off VIN, that should be a warning clue. If a vehicle is stolen, the police will come out and tow it for you for free. Doesn't cost you anything because they got to deal with it. It's a criminal act. I had a stolen car in one of my rental properties, bought it, started remodeling it, opened up the garage, ripped apart Dodge Charger. Sure enough, VIN's been tampered with. You got to find the secondary VIN in some random spot wherever that manufacturer puts it, and the car's been stolen. Cops towed it out of there. I saved myself a tow bill. Little quick tip for you guys. All right, Hyder says, I love that World of Warcraft tidbit of info. I hadn't heard that before. And Wayne Wong says, don't be average. Like Mike. I think he was saying be like Mike. Don't, because I'm not average. Wayne's my boy. Guys, really appreciate you guys as always for watching. If you've been following my journey this long, then you know when I started this channel in 2017, I was recently divorced, didn't have custody of my son, had less than $1,000 in my bank account, didn't own any real estate. I was a renter. I grew up very poor, Section 8, free lunches, food stamps, WIC program, about as poor as you can be in America. I will go toe-to-toe with anybody on the poverty Olympics. Grew up hating the police, just crappy lifestyle. But because I believed in myself and I believe in personal accountability, and I said on my very first video, you guys can go back and watch, as cringy and low quality and grainy as the footage is and as bad as the sound quality is, you can go back and watch video number 1. And I say, I don't know how long it's going to take to become financially free due to real estate, but I'm going to make it happen. And I'm going to document the entire process from start to finish. And I've held true to that since day one. Every major accomplishment or milestone that I've achieved, I've made videos about it. Every single rental property, you can go back and watch all of them. What I purchased it for, how much it cost me, how I funded the deal, how I found the deal, what the cash flow was on the deal. I am so much more transparent than any other creator that you watch. A lot of these guys, for better or for worse, don't throw up actual numbers, what they paid for, what it's going to rent for, what the loan is. I put all of it out there, all of it. So you can see real examples of real deals that I'm doing. And you can see the evolution of those deals as I went from buying turnkey to buying what I now call turnkey light, which is just close to being remodeled properties, but still need a little bit of work. And then eventually buying full gut rehabs and major BRRRR strategies and using a HELOC to do cash out refinances, and now partnering with other people's and creating LLCs and doing private money and doing seller finance and all these different things that I've learned over the last 7 years. I want you guys to be able to take that knowledge and run with it, do what you can with it, be successful, have your own opportunities to get to where I'm at, which is, as I explained earlier in this video, I went from 0 to 15 units in the first 5 years, and then in less than 1 year now I've done 11 more units. My cash flow, or my gross income that's coming in, is going to be around like $15,000 a month in what the rental properties bring in, but within just a few more months, it's going to skyrocket up to like 30,000. And obviously not all of that's profit. I've got different mortgages, different private lenders, different insurance, tax, all this stuff. But my goal, as I was talking with Dion about in our previous live stream, is to get to the point where I'm making $15,000 a month in straight profit. And if I can continue that out for a 6-month period, that's probably the threshold of where I'll say, all right, I have spent enough time as a police officer. I had enough near-death experiences. I've gotten hit. I've been punched. People try to stab me. People have shot at me. Maybe it's time for me to pull the plug, spend a little bit more time being dad to my son, and spend the rest of my life trying as hard as I can to evade and avoid being tied down in holy matrimony. So if it ever comes to it, I'll just marry Dion. We'll take the tax breaks and we'll just go our separate ways. But I'm gonna hope for you guys to hold me accountable on that one. Appreciate you guys as always for watching. I've got some great videos coming out on the channel in the next few days from our interviews in Las Vegas. We interviewed a whole bunch of the Flamingo showgirls on the Strip, and I've got compilation videos of those coming out. I think I've got one posted for Tuesday, so look forward to that. Guys, we will see you next time. I just got to figure out how to end this live stream now. Hey, I think it's that button. Yeah.